Good evening, everyone. I'm Pat Steele, Director of Senior Ministries. I just learned that not everyone knew who I was doing up front all the time, but that's my job here. Anyhow, welcome. It's nice to be here in the daylight. And I would like to welcome Allan Saugstad and his co-worker, Kelly Cleveringa, who's also attending Peace Lutheran, so welcome. And upcoming will be, let's see. The lady from Call to Freedom, and she'll be talking about the sex trafficking problem that we have right here in Sioux Falls. And then we're going to have someone come from the Bishop Dudley House. And then we'll have Pastor Paul and Sandra Larson in June for the sing-along at Sertoma Park, and that's always fun. You bring your own brown bag lunch or whatever, but it's always fun to be outside and sing along with them. So we have some fun activities. And this Thursday is the 5th Thursday of the month. For game day, we just have cheesecake and fellowship. And if people want to play games, we accommodate them. So it's always a fun afternoon, so come and join us for that. So anyhow, I will turn it over to you, Allan, and thank you.
Thank you, Pat. She asked me to open with prayer. Gracious God, we thank you for this time together, for this congregation, and all the ministries that are sponsored and supported by Peace Lutheran. We thank you for blessing us all with talents to serve one another. And we pray your continued blessing on our respective ministries, on the clients at Glory House and the staff, and that you will bless our time together tonight with your spirit and a spirit of compassion for the least of these. Amen. So, the main personal connection I can think of between Glory House and Peace is the quilters, and I see some of you here. And we're always grateful for those gifts, and for those of you that don't know, we give a quilt to each of our clients who finishes their program successfully as a graduation gift, and a little note that says this comes from supportive neighbors who want to wish you well in your continued journey of recovery. So it's a tangible expression of Christ's love, and a lot of the clients really appreciate them, especially in the fall and winter, but it's a symbolic value too. So we're very grateful for those quilts which come from some of you each year, and other churches as well. And I want to apologize for not getting the information complete to Pat, which is the fact that Kelly is also presenting, so her picture could have been on the poster as well. But she has the PowerPoint, and so give you the floor, and we'll respond to questions afterwards. And I have some brochures afterwards too, so don't let me forget to give you. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Kelly Cleveringa. I'm the program coordinator at the Glory House. I'm one of the managers, and then my day-to-day responsibility is getting our residential participants signed up for the program, figure out when they're supposed to come, and then try to get them to actually come when they're supposed to come. So I spend most of my time doing that. I started off as an addiction counselor there and did that for the first 5 years, and then for the last 7-8 years I've been doing this. So I'm going to just run through and do a brief overview of what our program is about, and you feel free to shout out any questions, or we'll do them at the end. So Glory House is our overall agency, and then Sands Freedom Center is the women's building, named after the person that helped fund it. So you'll see both of these items. A little bit of history about the Glory House is the Reverend Roger Fredrickson. His church came to him with a problem that people are being released from prison and having nowhere to go. So he brought that to his church, and in a very short amount of time, someone came back to him and said, I have a house. And she rented a house, and they went and looked through it and decided it would work and started moving people in. So they stayed in that house until 1975, and then they moved to where we are now on Southwest Avenue. We've added some buildings since, just an administrative building, and then our Sands Freedom Center was built in 2008. Prior to that being built, the men and women were housed together, and if we're providing good care and good treatment, we know that it's best to have genders separated from each other. And then in 2019, our apartment buildings opened, so we have one apartment building and more to come, and I will tell you a little bit more about them as we go. The mission of the Glory House is helping people claim their lives with Christian compassion, resources, and support. We set that as our mission because the people that come to us need a variety of different things, and like sky's the limit for what our clients might need help with. So very broad. We're just going to get them the resources that they need to be successful. We have our residential program, and then we have outpatient programs. So programs that we offer that clients that do not live there can come and attend. Both of those are focused on addiction, and then we also have people that can help with mental health issues. Right now we're sitting at 68 male beds and 30 female beds. Our average stay, I kind of laugh because there is no average stay. It's just you be there until you've got what you need to be successful. I have to kind of try to plan it, and it's not like a hotel where people are going to leave the day you tell them to leave. They often leave way before or way after, so we just kind of do some guessing. All of our clients receive case management services while they're there. So looking at things like their physical health, psychological health, education, work, money, housing, family, friends, activities, kind of looking at the whole person and where are gaps that they need help figuring out how they're going to handle when they leave us. And then the majority of our clients receive a minimum of 5 hours of addiction and mental health counseling every week. I touched a little bit on what our case managers do, but when people first walk in the door, we have one gal specifically that will help them make sure that they have all the documents they need to go get a job. The majority of our clients are required to work, and most of them don't come with those documents. So she'll help them get their birth certificate, social security card, and ID. A lot of our people come in with just the clothes that they're wearing, so she'll help them get clothes. We use a lot of other community resources to help us with that stuff. And then she will help them get hygiene and medication supplied to them. I kind of covered the daily living activities. We have two staff specifically that help people with employment. Our clients have had an easy breezy time finding jobs in the last year or so. So we've really been trying to work with people now on getting good jobs and keeping your job, because it's very easy for them to just go out and find one right now. And then we work with them on discharge planning. So ultimately our goal for our clients is that they're going to go to independent living after they're done with us. Can look like a variety of different things. They might go with a family or friend or spouse. They might go on a step down to a sober living center. Or they might go to our apartments. They might just go get an apartment by themselves. So we need to make sure that they're set up with everything they need to do that. People do not stay sober very long if they discharge to an empty apartment with no bed and no things. So we want to make sure that they have everything they need. For our counseling services, all of our counselors are licensed addiction counselors. And then I said earlier, but our clients attend a minimum of 5 hours of group or individual counseling a week. Some of them do up to 15, 16 if they're in a more intensive program. We offer an intensive methamphetamine treatment program. There's about 6 of us in the state that offer this intense meth treatment. And that's one where they're going to have a higher dosage of treatment because it is I'm sure everyone's aware, meth is a very addictive substance and people have a very hard time quitting it. So the more treatment we can provide them and the longer we can keep them engaged, the better the outcomes are for them to be able to stay sober. We use mostly cognitive behavioral therapy, which is your thinking and your behavior. So we're trying to get our clients to look at their thinking, and if they can try to switch their thinking to get different outputs from their behaviors. Cognitive behavioral therapy has just been shown to work really well with people in addiction, and also people with criminal justice involvement, which most of our people have. Another therapy that we started offering a year or two ago is dialectical behavior therapy. That's one of my favorites, and I really encourage all of our clients to try it. It is kind of a practice in mindfulness. So often when we're experiencing extreme emotions, instead of taking a minute and slowing down and trying to think rationally, we might just, you see people get angry and start yelling and shouting and pushing and shoving. That's a lot of our clients. They don't, they've never built that skill set to take a minute and slow down and use your rational mind. So we teach them things like using their wise mind, which is using your emotions, and then also using your rational mind and putting them together to make a good decision. Every time they start that group, they do a mindfulness exercise. So they will take the first 5-10 minutes of group, and if you guys are familiar with like a yoga practice, a lot of times in that you will close your eyes, you will focus on your breath. They do a lot of exercises like that where the client is forced to be in the moment, not let other things, other factors interfere, and just to be present. Teaching them to be mindful and be present is really important when we're trying to teach them how to deal with those strong emotions. So I can talk about it forever. It's my favorite group, but I won't. Another group that we do that's really popular right now is cognitive behavioral interventions for substance abuse. It's different than a traditional treatment. Traditional treatment's going to be 9 hours a week for 6 weeks or 8 weeks, and then you're done. Sabisa is, it depends how many sessions you do a week, but average is about 5 months long, so you're keeping people engaged a much longer time than traditional treatment, and it's all skill-based. They're not going into group talking about how their week was, or if they had a hard day, or processing things. They're going in there to learn a skill, practice the skill, how it's going to benefit them, and then the next week they check back about how they use that skill. So it's things like being assertive with someone, or learning to say no, celebrating, how to celebrate, because they don't always know how to do that appropriately. So I talked about this already, but here's a list of the services that we offer. We have a pretty wide variety because we really want to meet people where they're at. Not everybody needs the same thing. Not everybody's had the same life experience. So we try to, when our clients come in, give them our offerings and say, which of these groups do you think are going to be most helpful to you, and kind of guide them into picking something that's going to help them. Some of the other outpatient services we do is GPS monitoring. So that's the ankle monitor that tracks your whereabouts. And then we do Scram, and that is also an ankle monitor, and that tracks if they are using any alcohol. Telmate is also a GPS monitoring system, but they use their smartphone instead of the ankle monitor. So we'll use it for some lower risk people where it's still important to know where they are, but they're not high risk where it's going to cause big problems if their phone dies or whatnot. And then we do random drug testing through the Codafone program. People are assigned a color, and if their color is called that day, they have till 10 p.m. to report for a drug screen. It's one of our most popular programs. We usually have 300 or 400 people coming in and out several times a month, depending on what their color is. These are the people that we work with to get clients into our services. Parole and court services are the people that are supervising people that are on parole and probation. We get a lot of referrals from the public defenders and advocates. There's lots of people sitting in jail waiting for trials that are in need of treatment, so they will often get a furlough from jail to come to us to do treatment so they can get started on what they need to do before they get sentenced. We get a lot of people from inpatient treatment centers. So inpatient is going to be like Keystone, Human Services Center. Those are places where they are there 30 hours a day. There's medical staff, and their whole life is treatment when they're inpatient. They will come to us as a step down. So they're still getting some treatment, but they're going to work. They're spending time with their family, going out to do things for fun. Inpatient treatment's usually only 30 days, and sometimes that's just not long enough for people's brains to heal and for them to figure out what they're going to start doing differently. So it's nice to have that transition for them. And then we get a lot of self and family referrals. I talk to a lot of moms and grandmas and girlfriends and employers who are trying to get treatment for someone they care about. So we do get a lot of people that way, and I will always send them to our walk-in assessments. We do those twice a week. So if someone ever is like, I need help with my drug and alcohol problem, the first step is to get an assessment, and that's how they would figure out what treatment center they're going to, what kind of treatment they need. So I kind of will brag on Glory House. We do the walk-in assessment, so the longest anybody's ever going to wait to get one is 4 days. And that's really pretty amazing. When you're trying to get into treatment, it can feel like it takes forever, and we've got a system down where people can just show up, get it done, and get started. All right, and I think our last piece here is about the Glory House apartments. So our first building went up in 2019, and if you want to come talk about them too, you can, because Allan was really, they would not exist without Allan. He really got them going. But what our goal was for these apartments is our clients have such a hard time finding housing. They might have violent offenses, they might have sexual offenses, and that can really, and then with being low income, or living alone, so only having one income, that can make it really difficult to find a place that's affordable. So we, about 10 years ago, decided if, nothing's changing, so we need to fix this problem ourselves. So we had some land behind us where the old Ice and Rec Center used to be, and part of that was gifted to us by the city so we could put up these apartments. They are all HUD housing, so you have to meet income guidelines to live there, and you have to be willing to be drug and alcohol free to live there. There's 25 units right now. All the people that live in those units have access to a case manager, and then they can also do any outpatient services that we provide, but they are living on their own. We don't go check on them. They're responsible to do all of their own things there. We do have a program called the SHARE program, which is something we partnered with the state to do, and basically what it does is in exchange for case management services, we will pay for clients' deposit and rent. They also have to do random UAs to qualify for that program. It's been really helpful for some of our clients that are disabled and living on $700 a month of Social Security. It can give them a little time to come up with a plan, maybe find a little part-time job to try to supplement that income so they're able to afford to live on their own going forward. Do you have something else you want to say about them?
Yeah, Kelly did mention the fact that we've only completed the first phase of this apartment project because when the city gave us that land, it was with the stipulation that we would eventually build 72 apartments or more that would all be that same concept of sober housing under HUD. And so we have 25 right now. A few of them are vacant, actually. And so anyway, we hope to break ground next year for another 50 so that we will ultimately fulfill that commitment to the city. And my job as fundraiser is made easier by the fact that two things. One is we were accepted by the Chamber of Commerce for a chamber capital campaign. Each year the chamber chooses 2 nonprofits for a major campaign, and so you probably heard about different ones. VOA had one not too long ago for homeless teenagers, and I think that's not too far from here actually. The Boy Scouts had one, Active Generations has one coming up, McCrossin Boys Ranch. So anyway, we were very fortunate to be accepted by the chamber for that campaign, and we were able to raise about $1.3 million, which is still not enough for a building of that size, but there's a miracle called tax increment financing, which I didn't know anything about until I started working at Glory House. But so our partnership is actually with 5 entities: the City of Sioux Falls, Minnehaha County, South Dakota Housing, so you got city, county, and state, and then Lloyd Companies as the contractor, and Midwest Bank. And so, as Kelly said, it actually, the germ of the idea came about 10 years before we actually broke ground, but it took that long to get everybody on board and to get all those 5 entities together and to create the thick legal document, which had to be reviewed by lawyers, et cetera, et cetera. So it was a really long process, and we're grateful for all of those players. And the way tax increment financing works is that the city and the county basically sign off on some of the tax money. Yeah, you see views of some of the apartments inside and out. They sign off on some of the tax money for the first 10 years, and then Lloyd Companies fronts us with that money for the construction cost, and then we're gradually paying that back over these first 10 years with the money we get from rent. So, like I say, it's a financial miracle in my mind that nonprofits can do this, and Glory House is by far not the only one, but that's been a wonderful way to make this happen for a nonprofit our size. So maybe there's other questions you have about anything so far? Oh, go ahead.
Okay. This up here is our needs list. Like I said, our clients come to us, then they usually have nothing. So these are some of the most important things to help them be productive and get going. Bikes and bike locks for transportation. If you're going to bring us a bike, make sure it's got a lock with it, because otherwise they don't stick around very long. We're kind of getting out of winter coat and winter wear season. Socks, underwear, and bras are always a huge thing for us. We're not accepting any clothing donations at this time, just because we've kind of exceeded what we can take. Hygiene products. So a lot of people that travel for work will take all those like soaps and lotions out of hotels and save them and then drop them off with us, which I think is cool. And then hammers is a big tool people need. Like they get hired, but they have to come with a hammer. So that's something we always have on there. And then backpacks for people that are walking or biking. And then this is just some other donation information for Glory House. I think that's.
I say, where do we bring the things that we might be able to donate to you?
Okay. So our campus is at 4000 Southwest Avenue. We now have 4 buildings on our campus. So the one that you want to bring stuff to is actually the littlest building in the middle. There's a long wheelchair ramp on it, and that's where we take most of our donations.
Thought you had your hand up, sir.
Is there any relationship between what's going on with the Children's Inn and the football field there at the School for the Deaf and your programs?
No, I don't think so.
How about the financing?
other than, I mean, the Children's Inn is a partner that we work with when people are in need of their services, but that's pretty much it.
Okay.
I didn't realize that Roger Fredrickson had been the one who started Glory House. An amazing man. He started so many different things here in Sioux Falls during his time here. But when I first heard about Glory House, I thought it was a place for prisoners who were newly out of prison. I didn't hear about drug work at that time. Has that always been the focus, drug work, alcohol, and men getting, it was to help coming out of prison adjust to life. That was, what I heard.
Yeah.
So I'm just asking you for a little more history on it all.
Yeah. So to go back to Roger, he sat on our board of directors for many years after it got started, and then we were really fortunate. A couple years before he passed, he came in and did like some interviews for us that we were able to record. So when we have clients come in, which is every day, we do an orientation with them, and then we show them this YouTube video of Roger so they can see like where Glory House came from and the heart that was put into it in the beginning. Okay, so I believe in the 90s is when Glory House got a contract to start doing addiction treatment. And that is a really common misconception about Glory House, is that we're just a place, it's because it's in the name. It's called the Glory House. So people think that we're just a place for people coming out of prison to live. But really, I would say only 50% of our clients are coming out of prison. Most of them, 50% are, and then some are coming from the streets. They're coming from homeless shelters, treatment centers, things like that. Well, it depends on the month. Yeah, so his question was asking about our success rates. So before I tell you that, when you're looking at addiction treatment, pretty much across the board, anywhere you go, the averages for addiction treatment completion rates are 50%. And that's pretty much where we fall to. We have months that are better, and then we have months that are worse. But 50% is not our goal. I think our interim president set our goal for 70% this year, and we all went, okay. But we have a bunch of different programs, though. And our intensive meth treatment program, which is a year-long and very intensive, we're seeing like 75% success rates in that program. So that's really encouraging to us to see that longer method of treatment is keeping people engaged and keeping them sober. We had there's one gentleman I can think of that started in our first meth treatment group almost 2 years ago, and he still comes and meets with his counselor about once a month just to check in, and it's just a support for him that he's not willing to let go of. So it's exciting for us to see. Well, it's not always 50%, but we just say that's the average. Most of our clients that do not complete successfully, it's because they walk away from the program. So we'd consider it like leaving against medical advice. But there's no locks, there's nothing holding them there. And often when people get really frustrated or they really want to use, like their instant thought is, I'm just leaving, and we lose most of our people that way.
If I could just add, I think those of us maybe in this room don't realize how enslaving addiction can be. And so when people leave prison, they're evaluated for risk of reoffending, and there's low, medium, and high risk. We see only the medium and high risk people. We don't get the low risk because they're low risk. But I also want to just give a shout out to the fact that I know you have recovery programs here at Peace, and that's a wonderful ministry, And the more you can do in that area in terms of prevention and helping people with groups, and for some people, faith is an important part of their recovery, and we recognize that, although Glory House may have a more secular model, but it's great when you do addiction recovery here in the church also. And I think our time is up.
I have a question from online. Do you use the 12 steps of AA, and do you have a chaplains on staff?
Our treatment materials are not based on the 12 steps of AA. We encourage our clients to do 2 recovery activities a week. So that could be AA, NA, GA, whatever they choose. That can be going to church. That can be a Bible study. It can be a sweat lodge. It can be a talking circle. It can be a softball game. We don't care what they do as long as it's sober and social, because the research for addiction shows that your people and your things that you do are what is going to keep you sober long term. So we're not going to force people to do one thing or another if it's not going to be something sustainable that they're going to continue to do when they leave. A lot of inpatient treatment centers do work off of a 12-step treatment model, and because of that, we decided to deviate and do something a little different so people are getting different information.
Hi, I'm involved with the Food to You mobile food pantry, and I know at one time that we were bringing bread and pastries over to the women's building and also the men's building. Are you still in need of those things?
In small amounts.
Too much.
Sometimes we have to hold off a little bit because we get such an abundance of donations that we can't use them all in time. Or I'm running over to the juvenile detention center in VOA to try to get rid of some of our stuff. So yeah, we can take small amounts.
All right, thank you.
If there's not any other questions, I guess I'll just thank you for your time. And I know I get every time I tell somebody where I work, they go, I don't know how you could work there. That doesn't sound like a good time at all. And I just always reflect on our success stories and the people that graduate and come back, and you see them doing really well. It's not all of our people. It can be kind of a revolving door, seeing the same people over and over, but the ones that get it are really inspiring to us, and I think that's what keeps most of us coming to work every day. Donations go to 4000 Southwest Avenue. Yep. And then Alan's just handing out some material about our program. There's some information about the apartments in there. I don't know if we fully explained that, but you do not have to be affiliated with the Glory House to live at the apartments. So if you know of someone in need that is needing low-cost housing, it's available to anybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming tonight, everyone. It was very enlightening, and it's good to hear that we have these programs available here in Sioux Falls. And another thing, if you want to look into addictions, my cousin's son-in-law just retired from the Hazelton Treatment Center in Minneapolis, and he was an addict himself, but he has a wonderful story to share. It's worth going to. He was interviewed by national TV, but if you just type in Hazelton and look for the retired CEO, you can find it. But it's really heartwarming, and knowing what people have to go through to stay sober, and it's a challenge every day for them, but he was very successful in doing that. But anyhow, thank you for coming, and let's close with the Lord's Prayer.